record, and here we are. All right, so welcome everybody out there in social media land. I am Dr. Kent Key, and we are the Flint Public Health Youth Academy. We have our FPHYA interns on, some of our staff and our mentors, and we're really excited about today's show. Number one, we announced a couple of months ago that this summer we will be having our summer health campaign will be focusing on environmental health and environmental justice. And so we're excited to really have these conversations to really talk about the importance of what it means to interact with our environment. What does it do for us mentally, socially? What does it mean for us as it relates to our health? And so we have some awesome guests for today's show. So before I do that, I'm gonna let the FPHYA interns and the staff and the mentors jump on and say, hey, y'all greet the people. Who wants to start first and greet the people?
I'll go. So sorry, I can't show my screen right now. I'm somewhere. So hi, hello, my name is Amir Ellison Brown. I'm currently a college student and I've been a FPHYA intern for about 3 years or so. So glad to be here. Nice to have our guests here. So welcome.
Awesome.
I'll hop in next. Hi, I'm Cruz Duhart, a senior English major at Morehouse College, and I've been a FPHYA intern for about 3 years as well. And I'm super excited to be talking about environmental injustice.
Thanks, Cruz. Who's next?
I'll go next. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jasmine.
You can go.
Hi, I'm Taisha Brady, and I'm sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say, my bad. But yeah, hi, I'm Taisha Brady.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm one of the FPHYA mentors and a researcher and yoga teacher.
Hey, my name's Christian Mays. I'm a proud son of Melissa Mays, and I've been in FPHYA for about almost 2 years, which is unreal to me, but yeah, I'm ready and excited.
Hi, my name is Cole Mays. I've been here for 2 years and I just graduated high school.
Congrats, Cole. Anyone else? I know Everett has to talk in the chat. He's actually en route to Arkansas for his family reunion for the weekend. So safe travels, Everett. And if you say something in the chat, one of us will catch it and we'll share it with our audience on today. And then Reverend Dr. Sarah Bailey, who's basically the glue for FPHYA, she's on as well. And I think she's going to try to talk through the chat, or she may get on and say something. So, all right. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna start off with the first couple of questions. I invite some of the FPHYA interns to let me know which number that they want to ask as far as the questions. But we're going to start by first just allowing our guests to introduce themselves. We have the world-renowned Melissa Mays and Naira Sharif here, who are activists, who are water warriors, who are Flint residents, and who have really been on the front lines of this since before the world knew what was happening to Flint. And it's so important to me as a resident and in the spaces I've been at that people from here are telling the narrative, and that it's not someone giving a almost truthful version or a slanted version of really what has happened here in Flint with the water crisis. And it's important that we let people know we're still in it. It's just not in the news. We're not out of the water crisis. So we're gonna start off, Melissa, say something to the people.
Hi, I'm Melissa Mays. January 2015, I jumped into the water crisis fight. I founded What Are You Fighting For as a portal of accurate information for Flint residents, because we thought at the time that if the government found out, then the world found out, that we would be fixed. And here we are 2,989 days later, still working on that fix. So I'm currently now operations manager at Flint Rising, and I'm also a social worker in mental health here in Flint, so working with Flint residents. So yeah, doing what we can to fix the mess the government made.
Wow. Thanks, Melissa. Naira, what you got to say to the people?
Peace, y'all. Naira Sharif, they, them, like one of the things that people are doing now to make things more accessible is like kind of describing themselves. So I am brown skinned, my hair's back in a ponytail. I'm wearing a kind of a blue captain, and I'm the director of Flint Rising, which it started off as a water justice organization that formed after the state and federal emergency declarations in January 2016 around the lead and water emergency. And yeah, just been rolling, like just been out here in these streets for like a real long time, you know, really fighting with and building capacity with, building power with marginalized people, like people in public housing, like young people, LGBTQIA plus community, of like really like building the power and knowing that like when we center marginalized voices, like that's how we build justice, and that's how we build the world that we all want to live in, where we're loved and valued.
Thank you. And you kind of went into the first question, and I'll let you guys elaborate a little bit more, but really, you know, because our audience, many of them are from the local area, but then we also find out that we have people watching from all over the country, and a couple people from even overseas, because they end up sending me messages, you know, through Facebook. So my question is, you know, tell us about Flint Rising, who you are, what you do, what is your mission? So we know you started organizing probably reactive to what was happening with the water crisis, but tell us a little bit more about the organization and what you do. And that's to either one of you.
So Flint Rising really began with a canvas to the undocumented Spanish-speaking community, because they didn't know it was a crisis. Like I actually got a call from one of my very good friends, whose friend was the director of a social service organization that really worked very closely with that community, was a member of that community as well. And he called me, was like, hey, I'm coming to Michigan this Sunday to do a canvas, and we're going to be canvassing the East Side because the undocumented Spanish community didn't know it was a crisis. And we're just going to be like calling anybody in the state, like, you know how to speak Spanish, like come to Flint because they know it's a crisis. And so like we start like canvassing like over there, just really going door to door, telling people like, yo, you cannot drink the water. Like don't boil that water because that's not boiled, you can't boil out lead. And just making sure that they have resources. And then like, you know, then just hearing stories, because like how you hear a lot of stuff like on Facebook, like in these Facebook groups, people like that was living in public housing, like they didn't know. And then we were like, well, dang, like who's actually getting this information? And just the need that we needed to like go out the streets and like really let people know, because one of the other things that they was doing was like you had the police, you know, like you had the sheriff like going door to door and having people who was on work release like delivering water and serving warrants at the same time. You had the undocumented Spanish-speaking community who, because they couldn't get water because they made them show a photo ID, and in the state of Michigan, you have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident to get a photo ID, and they wasn't accepting like the IDs that they had. So they were going to the grocery store, and ICE was there. So ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And like they say, snatch you up to deport you back to, you know, your countries of origin. And so, you know, in the meantime, they throw them in detention centers. So it was like, look, we need to have like something that's not the government. Somebody not gonna think that you're talking to us, like they're gonna get snatched up by the police or like through ICE. And we want to make sure that they have accurate information, because the government was only putting out stuff in English, and we got like Spanish speakers, like we have like, you know, a bunch of different other speakers. Like we got people who like fled like global conflict in Syria and Yemen. And it's like, you fled bombs just to come here and got poisoned. And like, what in the world is that all about? And so like, we really felt like this kind of organically grew of being like a platform where people can, one, get accurate information, and information they could trust, that is, you know, there's no spin, like people could just make their own choices, like and do what they want with that information. And then like two, just like a way for like us to like organize and like come together, so we can fight for the justice and reparations that we deserve. you know, because like people need to live their best life. And like one of the ways people live the best life, they got the information that they need and they got the resources that they need so they can live their best life. And I don't know if Melissa had anything to add.
No, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Like it just went, from a canvas, and then coming to find out that the the resources that the guilty parties or those responsible were offering were nowhere near what we needed and what we asked for. So one of the things we did with Flint Rising, and Flint Rising was a coalition, it was basically the groups that were already on the ground doing, democracy, like our rights protection, that were doing, especially for the undocumented. There was Wani Oliveras was part of a study that was done. There's 26 languages spoken in Flint. So then there was human rights groups, and then our group at that time, What Are You Fighting For? We were fighting for, finding out what was in our water, what all was in our water, and what was all in our bodies. So then all of us kind of converged. Naira and Art and Awani all kind of pulled us all together and was like, look, we got some serious work to do. So we started going door to door, delivering water, installing filters. But then also the biggest thing we were doing was getting the voices on, we were filming the voices or having them write notes of what the people wanted. So we did this entire like gathering of finding out what Flint residents actually wanted and what they needed to be safe in their homes. And of course, it did not match at all with that. And so we've been fighting for making sure that Flint residents, the impacted people, were the ones leading this, but also that their voices were being heard by the people making the decisions and cutting the checks, since most of the state's money was just cycling right back to them and, continuing this cycle of abuse. So that's been our goal. And that's something that we continue to do, starting from early 2016 to this day.
So another question we would like to ask is, what is Flint Rising's approach to organizing and activism?
Now I feel like I'm going to get on, I would say, nonprofit-y. I'll try not to be, I really detest the use of jargon. As someone who used to work as a technical writer, to me, like, accessibility is key so we can get on the same page as quick as possible. But like people like in the nonprofit world say, like, what's your theory of change? Which is basically like, like, how do you see yourself in this work? And like for us, like, we feel that you don't get, like, people in Flint, they don't need interpreters. Like, they know how to say like what they need in the voice and the language that they have. And we just find spaces so people and giving people skills and whatever, so they could just tell their own story in the way that they want to, and find spaces for people to tell them that, And so, and one of the other things is like, people who are directly impacted, so the people who were harmed need to be leading the work, because a lot of times what happens, like if there is a disaster, you have people trying to parachute in, with the water crisis, like, we didn't get any saviors. There wasn't nobody trying to come in, because we've been saving ourselves as much as they try to like kind of revise that. It's been people out there like in the streets doing the hard work of like the stuff that is not the flashy stuff. So the flashy stuff is like, we're doing this march and it's like 3,000 people and we got these celebrities and we got these activist celebrities, or like Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or all these people who are just like kind of well known in those spaces. It's like, no, we had just, and then it's the other stuff, which is like the work. The work is like educating yourself, talking to your friends and family. Like, there's not cameras following you around when you sit at the kitchen table, talking to your friends about like the water, or like meeting up at community center, church, block club, park, on the block, whatever, and talking to people of like, this is what it is. How are we going to make some change? And not just being like, how are we going to make some change? Not telling them that. Have them people like find that for themselves, because we all have our own path to justice and liberation. And we need to see like how our paths can join and converge so we can walk on that path together.
So if there's not any additional comments, Our next question is, what is environmental health? And anyone from FPHYA as well as our guests can answer this one.
I'll go. To me, basically, I mean, essentially it's everything, like, the water quality, air quality, is dependent on, how well we take care of the environment also. But to me, environmental health is very important to, every human being, because I mean, we need to live, we need to breathe air, drink water, all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
I actually agree with you. Yeah, full-heartedly. When I think about environmental health, I think about what can you do to be conscious about the way you're impacting your surroundings. The types of things that affect you every day, and that can spill out to a lot of things, like how you mentioned water, air, but it could also just be farming. It could be soil. It could be so many different types of things that impact your everyday. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit of it, but I think someone else wanted to say something.
I would also add that it's noise. Like we have our air, but it's also the sound that we do or don't have to deal with in our neighborhoods. And Everett said anything and everything, food, water, air, temperature, all of it.
And for me to build on all the other wonderful answers and responses so far is Elder Bailey, I was about to say the built environment. So like our roads, our homes, the buildings that we spend so many hours in, like that is also like the linkages between nature, which a lot of people like mention, and then like the built environment, which is, like everything that's built.
Yeah, everyone's absolutely right. It's the ground that we step on, it's the water that we drink, it's the air that we breathe. And the health aspect comes in when it's, considering the fact that we're dumping stuff into the water that we drink and we're breathing in the air that gets polluted because of the stuff we pump up into it. So, I mean, it's all intertwined with, public health and how we do things with it too.
And you also have to think about it, adding on to him a little bit. You also have to think about it when it gets really hot, all that condensation and the evaporation of that, that heavy water that you aren't supposed to be drinking is in the air. So even if we're not drinking it, we're still breathing it in.
Well, just to bring it full circle, so we're really talking about environmental health, but then there's another thing that people talk about that is all about how the environment impacts health, and that's called epigenetics. So not only do we impact the environment, then the environment actually impacts our genes. So that's like a whole nother flip side of the coin, but we'll talk about that on another show.
So we kind of got a good running definition of what environmental health is, but kind of speaking about that same thing, what would you say environmental justice is?
Well, I would say like go ahead, Melissa.
No, you go first.
No, you go first, because I've been hogging
Hot
up
potato.
the mic a little bit.
No, what I was just going to say, I gave very simplified answers. Environmental justice means that your zip code, your street address, the city you live in should not dictate how much pollution is dumped on you and your ability to live. It should not impact your lifespan. I mean, and that we've got that clearly going in Flint and the state of Michigan. So where you can point out zip codes that are far more deadly. 48217 in Detroit, the worst air quality. 48503 and 04 here in Flint, the worst water quality. But it should never matter, because again, that links in with economic justice, because those tend to be the most poor and majority minority cities and zip codes in town.
So I was just gonna give like a little synopsis. So environmental justice, like that term, like really came out like in the 90s, started being used in the 90s, because you had activists who were, like the big green organizations were not like really down with the term environmental racism, which was like what it was first called, like, you know, like from the 70s and the 80s, of just seeing like how racism and was you know, like impacted like some of these built environment things of like, why am I living right across the street from an oil refinery? Or like, why is my school right next to an expressway? You know, and so like there is like, you know, this other kind of like how people are seeing. So like, because like people were skittish around saying racism and the fact that there was some intentionality around it. Environmental justice was supposed to be used as a terminology as far as like the remedy to the injustice. So you hear a lot of people say environmental injustice, which is really like racism. But then there's this other concept called spatial racism, which is like spacing and race, which is like another way to kind of like see like the linkages between, you know, the spaces that you're in, like plus the race, your race equals like your health outcomes, the disparate health outcomes that usually occur. And I know I have a bunch of stuff, but I'll wait. I have a bunch of links, but I'll wait until a little bit later to drop those in the chat.
So essentially, to me, it is identifying disparities and finding ways to attack them, to make things more equitable for different types of people. And racism is one of those highlights of this is how it impacts some of those environments and some of those communities. Do we have any other additional comments?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
Oh, Melissa, I saw you coming off mute. Do you want to?
No, I was just going to read what Dr. Bailey said, that there's 62-year lifespan in Flint and 82-year lifespan in Grand Blanc.
Wow. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, it kind of related to that, like environmental justice also is concerned with like the reparations for the harm done, including healthcare. Like we talk about with Flint, like our, you know, our resources don't match the needs of our community members, and reparations hasn't happened. And then also we talk about environmental justice and environmental health as it relates to like human health, but in and of itself, like our earth is worth saving, worth protecting. And there are other beings on this planet besides humans who also deserve a safe and non-destructive place to live and exist. And that's part of those principles of environmental justice.
So that's awesome. And they go hand in hand. And I like Naira's kind of giving us the backdrop of how things migrated from, you know, environmental racism, right, into environmental justice. So that's pretty awesome. And so then the next question is, you know, so what currently is Flint Rising doing? Like, what are you guys actively doing now? What's the focus right now? Even though so many crazy things have happened in the last week. In the last 3 weeks, even from the oil spill, even from the dump, the leakage in the Flint River from one of the local industries here. And so just what are y'all doing right now? Tell us what y'all do.
Yeah, so with that, we've been complaining about that for quite some time. And it goes back to, we wanted to know what all we have ingested, what all's in the river, because studies about what's all in the river have disappeared. And, you know, Kettering had done a study and found like, I think it was like 129 different contaminants. And that study, the study got disappeared, we'll just say that. But we want to know what all we ingested, because of course then PFAS came out and they knew about that. This is not the only time that sewage or oil or other products have been dumped in our water since 2014 and beyond, because don't forget the sediment at the bottom. And, you know, they had this whole thing out for years. The state did, don't eat the fish. Well, why can't we eat the fish, but we can drink the water from the same source? Right. So, okay, so that was a disgusting mess and was not shocking. Losing our right. I've been comparing the Supreme Court taking away my right as a female to do what I need to do with my body. I compare it to the emergency managers that the state of Michigan, you know, appointed, unelected officials making decisions for all of us. Based on what they want and they need, and probably what they're going to profit off of, and whatever. And it doesn't matter the damage done to the human being. So we've had several of those decisions come down, especially for the state Supreme Court, that basically said the indictments need to be tossed out because that court system, and Naira will give more details, works for the poor, but not the wealthy white folks and governmental officials. That apparently is, you know, that's too below them. So nobody's being held criminally responsible at this point. Yeah, and then another thing that we found out is my lawsuit, the State Drinking Water Act lawsuit to replace all the lead and galvanized steel service lines. We settled it in 2017. The city was supposed to replace everything, and the state was supposed to replace all of the lead and galvanized steel service lines. Well, there were 1,419 homes that had never even been reached out to. So now Flint Rising has been in charge of sending the mailers out, making the phone calls, knocking on the doors to make sure nobody gets left out and that we don't leave any lead in the ground. And again, that's just one thing, because starting back this past August, we got involved when we found out they were blending our water. So that way we can pay our water bill pays for two different sources. So folks don't lose money on their, you got to keep Wall Street happy, right? So, so we're paying for those. But in the meantime, they experimented with Flint yet again and started blending two different water sources that are treated completely differently. And what did that do? It wrecked our existing fragile infrastructure with our distribution mains and interior plumbing, and then did a nice job preventing the protective coating for the new pipe to stick. So real good, wrecking $100 million of investment and all that. So these people making decisions are just absolutely, you know, ignorant. But again, if you make decisions about us, without us, this is what's going to happen across the board. So yeah, we've been putting out fires, running like crazy, knocking on doors, trying to talk to people. And then of course, you know, getting people registered to vote, because that's also very important. So Naira, yeah.
Yeah, and there I would say, like, I got more doom and gloom for y'all. There's no way to kind of like sugarcoat that, I guess. It's not sugarcoat. But yeah, so like over this, like starting in the fall, which I'm super excited about this, is like, we're gonna start stretching out our community and getting them to like really talk about like climate change. And that's something that, you know, like we may hear the term, but we don't really know what that means. And we don't really know like all the different ways that like that impacts us. Like for instance, what kind of stove y'all got in your house? If you got a gas stove, you know it's almost as bad as smoking. Do you know that gas is a major contributor?
We didn't hear that last part because you're on mute.
Childhood asthma, like it's a major contributor to childhood asthma. Do you know that last month, the American Medical Association passed a resolution saying that gas stoves is a public health threat?
Yep.
Because it's contributing to childhood asthma? Like stuff like that. Like, do y'all know? So there's this term called petrochemicals, and like it's oil, and then it's gas, and coal. You know, like that's what they call it. They call it because of, you know, it's fossil derived fuels. You know, but one of the things that it really does two things of like, you know, like that's basically like in this country, like that's how, you know, heat energy is generated. But like one of the other byproducts of that is plastic. And so like plastic from petrochemicals is like in everything, you know, so the clothes, if you like buying Shein, Fashion Nova, guess what? You rocking plastic, you know? and when you done wearing the plastic clothes, you know, they're going over to Africa and just being in these massive like landfills and stuff. And then like one of the other things that, you know, like we're gonna be stretching folks out about, then the other thing, you know, because a lot of these facilities, the refinery says, you know, like these go oil and gas plants, they're like in Black communities. So like one of the things that discharges is like what they call is particulate matter. So it's fine particulate matter. And so you have like 1.5, Black people 1.5 for more times to die, you know, from the inhalation of that than anyone else, because like, as I said before, like space and race, and how this, it's like intentionally, like they're putting these toxic facilities like in Black communities or in poor communities, you know, in communities of color. And it's killing us off, you know, like it's like straight up killing us off, you know, for these people to kind of make all these profits. So, you know, just really having and developing like a political analysis to see like how, you know, some of the things, because these are global issues, you know, and like we gotta like, you know, like organize so we can like really make better decisions, you know, like on how we're going to be participating in this, because unfortunately we're still in this capitalism society, and one of the features is like really like extracting and exploiting people. So, you know, like how do we building spaces that we kind of shifting that so we loving on each other, we caring about people. But I'm gonna drop like some of these all of these doom and gloom things in the chat.
Wow, yeah, a lot of that I didn't know about. So this information definitely needs to be spread. So it sounds like y'all definitely have been busy. So one of my next questions then is, how have you become exhausted with activism over time? And then what keeps you involved with environmental justice?
Well, Nair is link dropping. Yeah, it's exhausting. It is exhausting, but one of the I guess one of the things that separates us from, you know, people who are pushing from outside is that it's happening to us every day. We see it, we feel it. I look at the little faces that aren't on the their cameras right now. Looking at them, looking at Christian, and that keeps me going, because yo, you mess with my kids. I worked really hard to have these little people, and you would just come along, you know, poison them for profit. We got an issue. But yeah, it is when you live in it and you see it every day. You see your neighbors, your friends, your family, you know, falling apart, seeing things go badly, seeing people not know what to do because these folks keep making these decisions to harm us. Well, where I'm from, that ain't okay. And so what keeps us going, I used to say Rage and Red Bull keeps me going, and Rage and whatever natural energy thing I'm drinking now, so whatever it is. Right now it's cherry Coke, but we don't get to talk about that. I mean, no, it's just the right is right and wrong is wrong, and you're getting away with it. And, you know, the people that are getting in the way of justice need to be set in their place. And our place is not the poison victims that fall down and the poison victims that just roll over and die. Our place is to fight back and, you know, do this whole, you know, going up, you know, battling uphill and stuff. And yes, sometimes it's exhausting and sometimes we want to give up because, dude, how many more things can they throw away for us? How many more times can they put justice in the garbage for us? But as long as, if we go silent, they're going to keep doing it and they're going to do it for everybody. So it's our responsibility to keep going. And also, yeah, they mess with my kids and people I actually like and care about. So, you know, I mean, fair would be that they move to Flint and get no filters.
I would say like tea, hanging out with my friends, and reading. Like I think like everything that I like to do is like things I could do by myself. So I like to sew and crochet and just doing stuff that with my hands, because to me like movement is relaxing. You know, like even though, you know, it's not like dancing or anything, because I don't like being around people. But just having like kind of spaces for just myself that I could just be by myself is soothing.
Yeah. So one of the things that FPHYA has cultivated for me is like this desire to be an activist and things like that. And so I've always been worried, like maybe I'll become tired with time. And so I think one of the things that you guys push through is having, that thing that you're determined to keep and stick in with it. That passion, why you're doing it, but as well as, taking care of yourself. So I really do think I'm gonna try to take that for myself so I don't get burned out.
And I just
So
want to say that it's okay to say you're tired. It's okay to say that you're angry and you need to take a break. It is perfectly okay and normal. We all go through it. We put on our
yeah,
outside faces and we get in front of cameras and we do like a bazillion interviews a day if we can. But it's okay for us to be like, no, we're tired, and you take time for you because the movement's going to keep rolling and you're not replaceable. But
yeah,
the thing is that and we appreciate it. Oh my goodness, we love your spirit. Plus you guys also keep us going, because the youth that are mad and are standing up and know what's right, and that you guys are like, yo, we're going to fix this. Thank goodness, so you guys are extremely inspiring as well. But just remember, it's okay to take a mental health day or 2 or a week, because this is a long haul. This is something I did not know at the beginning. I thought once the world found out we were poisoned, we were going to get fixed.
yeah,
So that was, like 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago. Ugh, but it's okay because we're still working on it and, develop some more patience. I'm not a very patient person. I don't know if the kids have told you that, but not a very patient person, but knowing what's right is right and not giving up on it. And don't let them run you into the ground and burn you out. But it is absolutely okay. Self-care is number one, so you can stay in the fight so we don't lose you.
yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, really prioritize yourself, because the work is always going to be there. There's enough work here for everybody. And like if it's like something that could be financially compensated, like there's enough work here for every single body, and the people who not even in existence yet. It's all the work out here, Like, but we gotta make sure that you there, that you don't get burnt out or get discouraged. So like really like, making sure, I don't want to say support circle, but like who your people,
right,
because those are the people that you help, that you are accountable to. And then those are the people who are going to support and love on you when you're all stressed out.
right. You need that group to pour back into you. So one of our interns really had this question that they wanted you to answer, and it's, what can you do if we believe that we are not being listened to?
I love hearing this because, I love working with young people. I used to work with young people a lot more than I do now. But I will always like have people like repeat after me, I have power. And then, because you do have power. And if the people ain't listening to you, figure out ways that for them to listen to you. It's like, you gonna ignore me? Well, fine. I'm gonna sit in your office, and then you're gonna have to see me, like we're gonna be out here with signs, like we're gonna take over the whole street. Like you gonna see us, So I think that, and then like, like one of the other things that is like, I feel like things that people have to unlearn, because some things that you learn and then it's destructive and then you pass that on, and one of those things is like, young people is just like the grunt work, they're the labor. Like we want them to be all like basically falling out in the road, like in the street, like this time of day, like this, when it's all hot, like we gonna have them go door to door. But we don't want them to help us develop like a strategy or like a narrative or like what type of things that, like the solutions. It's like, no, y'all got the solutions. It's just like, like people just need to hear your solutions. And, and then the other thing is like, you may not be ready to vote now. I don't know the age of these folks, but once you turn 18, there you go, like hold a grudge. like I hold grudges. And, like one way for you to hold grudges against people as far as like direct democracy is like, you vote these ones out, you be in their face And if they don't listen to you, you vote them out. And then like, you know, like the other stuff that's like, well, write a damn letter. You know, I'm sorry, I'm starting to cuss. I'm feeling myself. But yeah, like, and then it's like, you don't want to write a letter, like, especially like if it's elected officials, they addresses are public. Like you can sidewalk talk the mess out of their sidewalk, you know. You can go around talking to their neighbors, be like, you know how much trash this person is? Like, let's talk about it. You know, like, so just lead into like all of the creativity that you have, because like one of the things that happen is like people get old and tired and they lose their creativity. They lose the spark. They lose like the jazziness about them. And so like, you know, lean into all of your strengths, you know, and then do it, because like people, like y'all ain't got nothing to lose. You know, you ain't really got nothing that people can't take away from you. They can't take away like, you know, like a job, like you may get kicked out of school, you go to another school, you know. Or you just tell your circle, your community, they'll get you back into school, you know. So you just have to like, you know, just be like the fearless, bold people that I know that you are, and just lean into it.
Right. And if you don't feel comfortable speaking in public, one, you can make a video at home. You can make a word video. You can just, you know, you can just have like the, you know, I would say lyrics because it's my band. But there's also ways that even if you don't feel comfortable marching and protesting, because sometimes there's, you know, unsafe situations with everything that we've seen. Just so you know, a little tip from somebody with an MBA and a minor in marketing. You can do door hangers. One of the first things we did in with What Are You Fighting For and everything was door hangers. And it listed on one side all the concerns, on the other side it listed all the elected officials' phone numbers and emails, addresses, and hung them on people's doors. Knocked on them to try to talk to them. But then people who weren't home, we hung them on their door handles. Can't put things in people's mailboxes or on their cars, but you can hang a door hanger. So you can get creative with that. You know, do your artwork. Put your posters out there or your artwork in public places. However you feel the most comfortable expressing yourself, because you don't have to get out there and yell at people like me and Naira do. You know, if you're not comfortable with that, there are so many ways that you can be heard. I've been walked out of buildings before, whatever, and then I just live stream me getting escorted out. You know, anywhere the former governor was, I was not allowed in there. Boo-hoo. So, you know, it's hard because they're going to do everything to not listen to you, but it doesn't mean you're not heard. That does not mean you're not heard. And it's not just about like making sure the people who are responsible are hearing you, your neighbors and friends, exactly what Naira said, make sure they hear you and you guys get on the same page and you start saying this is how we're going to push. And y'all are social media like geniuses, right? Like use look what TikTok's done. Look at the K-pop kids. I mean, oh my God, they've made so much change. You guys make so much change. And even though, and that's a hard thing about being an activist, especially when you're in the middle of it, you don't always see the impact you have. And there's times that somebody's pulled Naira or myself aside and said, hey, you saved my life. And we're like, I don't know you. I got stuck in the airport and I was washing my socks in the sink. And, you know, the airport, and I'm like, yo, I don't know you, strange person. And she's like, hey, I know you. And usually with me, that's two different ways. One, I've made somebody very angry and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to sit there and tell me what a bad person I am. And it's usually bad people, so it's fine. I don't mind that. Or it's somebody that, you know, has seen me and has questions or concerns about their own water quality, things like that. And so, yeah, that's what she had said, that she was having some of the, you know, the seizures, the different same issues as me, because we were talking about it. And, you know, she went and got tested and got her son tested. They had high lead levels in their blood and got their water tested. So, yeah, and that's awesome. So you don't see that. So basically, if you throw a pebble in a lake, right, you don't see all the ripples. And especially, like I said, if you're in the middle of a tornado, you don't see it, but it's happening. It's happening. So if you don't feel you're being heard, you use your creativity and what you're comfortable doing, and, you know, try to go outside the comfort level, because I was not a public speaker unless I was on stage in front of, you know, hundreds of people at a concert. And that was a lot easier than standing in front of a bunch of folks being like, what's this crazy person talking about? So fine, you know, but you just learn and you grow and you find ways that work. And those will also change over time too. Because some things worked. I mean, we did the sidewalk chalking and it was awesome. And then I got used to it and sprayed it off. Okay, fine. So then you do more artistic and creative things, because nothing's ever for naught. Okay. So just, even if you think it's small, even if, you know, you didn't get a lot of likes or whatever on that, you don't know who all it reached. And then, yeah, just keep being annoying too, because guess what? Your elected officials can't block you. That's illegal. So I found that out. So, and I've been harassing Senator Mike Lee since 2016 when he single-handedly blocked $226 million of Flint. So everything he does over there in Utah, I just say, oh, as a reminder, this. And so I got my, my normal posts like sick. So, and that makes me feel better. Like, hey, I don't feel good today. I'm mad. So I'm going to go harass this dude because he's usually doing awful things anyway, And so I just said, like, as a reminder, y'all think he's bad. Guess what else he did, because that looks bad. And so, so yeah, just, you can do that. And you can just be like, hey, what you're doing is terrible. You're, quit it, whatever, but then also I just want to add, run for office. Please fix this mess. We don't need these old people still telling us what to do with all of our things. And it needs to be a little more diverse instead of looking like a bunch of old white people. So, if that's up your alley, try to run for office.
I have a question kind of related to that. Can I jump in? So I know we said, oh, actually, I want to read Naira's comment. Well, Dr. Bailey said, say that again, show up at their meetings. Naira said you can learn how to do all of that. I started by writing up whatever I wanted to say and spoke during public comment for like a year. They need to stop dying in office. LOL. Sorry. But I had a question. So, we wanted to know what to do if youth aren't being listened to. But I know that a lot of times when it comes to, movement works and things like that, there's that intergenerational piece in having people actually show you, what it's like, rather than just saying, oh, do this, do that. And I'm wondering what opportunities are there, or like, how does Flint Rising engage the community or engage youth? And like, what opportunities are there for youth to like get engaged with the work that Flint Rising is doing? Y'all look excited to answer that one.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, it was, I was waiting, like, Naira's ready to go. No, one of the things we've been proud of doing was getting folks to these community meetings where we help prep them. We help prep them, especially for when there was public comment for the lead and copper rule, the federal rule, all of this stuff. So we train, and it's all ages. Get in these meetings. We'll help educate you. Naira is an amazing teacher. So I just bent, and that's fine. And then I got you because, when we went to Nestle to ask them for stuff, they have sent 9 different police cars to come after us. That's where I hop in and I get in front of folks. I'm like, these are all my children. And I'm telling you right now, no, you can't have their personal information. You take mine, she already got it. So that's where I'm good at. But Naira is excellent at teaching people, especially the youth, how to start growing and building what they want to say and put their thoughts on paper and getting the words out. And then also getting them, we've done all of these different clinics about like just making posters, just getting the kids involved from all the youngest of ages all the way up through, and then making sure that when we are doing our press conference, we got the kids talking to. So my kids know that firsthand. Thanks, boys, for being cool, being volunteers, because we want to hear from everybody. Because again, people might not like me, they might not like Naira. I don't know why, because I think we're sweet and amazing. But how are you going to hate on these kids?
Right.
Well, like I teach the way, like my elders taught me, like how my parents taught me. It's like you learn by doing, like you're here, we all doing it together. You get those little nuggets of knowledge along the way. It's not like it's necessarily like a formalized stuff, because, like this environmental justice, like really justice work in general is hard work. Like you can learn like some of like the theoretical knowledge, like if you go to school and the college books, but like how to implement that, like how to like talk to people, like you respect them as an autonomous human being, like you only learn that by doing. And y'all can like, as we launch these other things, like, like come vibe with us, like I could put my phone number and email address in the chat, and like people could come, just come with us, like we building this all together. This isn't like exclusiveness. It's not just for me. It's not for Melissa. It's not for like, like people who just been here 20, 30 years. And then like, I don't believe into like the whole, like, you got to pay your dues before you step in leadership. Like, nah, like this your time now. Jump in it. It's right there. The door's open for you. Just walk on in.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we have one last question left. Dr. Key, do you want to end us off?
Sure. So, do you think President Biden should issue an executive order regarding the Supreme Court ruling with the EPA?
Well, it's like a whole lot of things that need to happen with that, and just kind of give people of like what this means. So like yesterday, the Supreme Court like issued a ruling. It was West Virginia versus the EPA around like a law that wasn't even around anymore. Like so, like in 2010, like there was this thing called the Clean Power Plan, which was like kind of this mandate to stop like fossil fuel emissions around greenhouse gases. So the US, and this is like how I said everything is global. So the US is like in the top 3 emitters for greenhouse gases, which is the major contributor to climate change. And so like if the world goes above 1.5 centigrade, it increases, then we're just all screwed, you know, like we're all gonna die. So this was like a way to kind of stop that. So 2019, you know, like President Trump like basically eliminated that, replaced it with their own kind of weaker plan. But in the meantime, you know, like one of the major, you know, contributor to greenhouse gases is, I don't know why I would say grass, but gases like power plants. And so mostly coal power plants, but most of the people, like they've been abandoning it. And so like one of the, I would say like kind of the implications with this is like, you know, under this major questions doctrine, which they use as kind of this theory, is like, what happens to all of these other regulatory agencies? You know, like we have the Clean Air Act, which regulates the toxins that come in our air, the Clean Water Act, which is the pollutants that can be in our water, you know, like the FDA, which is like basically all these regulatory agencies. Or what happened if we have another pandemic? What's the different, you know, what happened if it's like, I don't know, like measles 2023, you know, like, and then like how are our public health agencies gonna act in response to that? Like it's hot garbage. And just knowing like the impacts in Black communities, like yes, there should be an executive order to answer this. Like yes, you know, climate change is real. There needs to be real action. Like it's time to stop playing games. Like it's time to stop like corporations basically killing us for profit. And you know, like I was part of a team that wrote a response with Movement for Black Lives, and I'll put that in the chat. I have all these statements that I'm putting in the chat, and I have like some other stuff where people kind of like, I have a whole lot of research, that type of stuff, but I feel like, you know, I believe people need to be educated for themselves. Like we could chat it up, you know, and we can like digest it together, but like we need to have some sort of working knowledge of these things that are impacting our lives.
Thanks, Naira. Melissa, did you want to add anything else?
No, but Cruz had an excellent question. Well, what happened to the Green New Deal and all the stuff that he tried suggesting when he came in? Yeah, apparently that's too radical and less, you know, protecting the planet we all live on and making sure we're not breathing in like, you know, well, plastics and, you know, toxic, you know, things and creating jobs to make a sustainable planet and healthier jobs and everything like that. Yeah, see, that would be making sure that poor people and minority folks in towns would be well cared for, making sure they're healthy in their homes and would have long-lasting careers and benefits. Silly, you know, those rich folks don't want that. So yeah, it's kind of been left to the wayside. And again, you know, COVID's a mess, everything's a mess, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, we have to remember to hold their feet to the fire. So that's a great question. I would write a letter to, or put it out there. Seriously, that is an excellent question. It's a simple question. Be like, hey, yo, what about all this? And then also just what exactly gives the Supreme Court the authority to gut these agencies? Just, you know, I mean, is that even a valid rule that they still have? And, you know, are they even valid? Why is this even happening? So, you know, ask them questions, keep asking those questions, and don't even, you know, the thing is don't accept the first answer they give you because it's probably a prepared PR one and it's probably garbage. So keep asking and just straight face that, be like, excuse me, here's my question, you know, and again, if you want to get them to do the most amazing version, why are you killing us? Why?
Yeah,
why
so like the Green New Deal, like some pieces of that it was in the Build Back Better Act, which basically died, like it's in a sense, it's gonna die. And then there's this other thing, which is called like the Justice 40 Initiative, which is an executive order that basically says that, like all, like federal government is like real kind of wonky. So it's basically like the money that's in these federal programs, like 40% of it needs to be spent in disadvantaged communities. And, basically it's our community. So, I mean, like, but the trouble is like, how you gonna mandate that? How you gonna make sure it actually happen? And so like, that's like some other stuff that we're working on is like, making sure that people don't be cooking the books and trying to like bamboozle folks, and so money is actually getting to our communities.
Well, thank you both for, first of all, taking the time out to be our guest. We definitely will probably have you all back, probably in different variations, because you do so much work. We're excited again to be on this environmental health journey, this environmental justice journey. And we're looking at environmental racism. As you all know, we did, when I say we, FPHYA, Flint Public Health Youth Academy, did youth dialogues last year, asking over 85 young people in Genesee County, what is racism? How do they see racism manifesting in Genesee County? When did they first experience it? And also, what do we need to do to fix it? And so we're really looking at every aspect of health and racism and how these things impact the overall health and wellness of our communities. So again, thank you all, everybody out there in social media land. This was another episode of A Youth Perspective. We are so glad that you joined us on today. We'll be here Friday after next at the same time. Now remember, this is the Flint Public Health Academy, where public health is everything and everything is public health. Have a good evening, everybody. See you later.